All right, we are going to jump right in, gentlemen. Your opening statements. Remember, you have 1 minute. We'll start with Chris Carr.
Thank you, Representative Hogg. Happy again belated birthday. Thank you for doing this. Thank you to the Cobb Republican women for hosting this event yet again. Truly appreciate you all taking the time to be here. I have said this before. I will say it until the end of my second term as governor. Georgia is the model for the nation as it relates to jobs and safety, and that is something we should be proud of, but that's something that we have to work to continue. Look, it doesn't just happen that we believe in the power of the free enterprise system at keeping people safe. We have had good conservative leadership in this state, and we need to keep it that way. We need a governor that has the record of working in Washington on those issues, working to bring jobs to this state, working to keep people safe, and have a vision for the future on workforce and education and a good legal environment, good regulatory environment, keep our tax base and our tax burden as low as possible, continue to invest in infrastructure. And we've got to keep people safe. We also have to focus on the stop popped up. Focusing on mental health and keeping our children safe. That surprised me.
Thank you. That is a good stop sign.
Went from 30 to stop very quick.
All right, Ness.
To the bell.
Clark D, your opening statement.
Well, first, thanks for being here and thanks for listening. So I'm Clark Dean. I'm running for governor to deliver real results for Georgia families. I'm not a politician, but for the last 30 years, I've been building businesses and serving in the community, solving problems and getting things done. I believe that we live in the greatest state and the greatest country in the world. We've been number one in business for like 12 years. Well, listen, I believe that we should be number one in lots of things. And we shouldn't be second to dead last in maternal mortality. Families shouldn't be this squeezed. Taxes shouldn't be this high. And education and healthcare shouldn't be this inaccessible. We got real problems to solve, and we need a problem solver to solve them. Leadership starts with listening. And I've listened all over the state and created an ASAP plan for Georgia that we need to do ASAP. It focuses on affordability, on strength, on accessibility and prosperity for all Georgians as soon as possible. We need to move at the speed of business, and we need a competent executive that can get that done.
Thank you so much. All right on time. All right, we will now begin with questions for our candidates. You have 1 minute for your response, and again, you'll be notified as to the 30-second left, and when the bell rings, please stop talking. Your first question is, income and property taxes were major topics of this past legislative session. Everyone is on record as favoring tax cuts. In the end, income taxes were cut with a plan for future cuts and a bill to cap assessments passed, but not eliminating property taxes. What is your plan for income taxes and property taxes to ensure Georgians get relief and remain competitive?
So I'm a big believer in reducing taxes across the board. And the fact of the matter is we pay lots of taxes, not just income and property taxes. But the fact of the matter is this: we cannot responsibly reduce taxes unless we cut the cost of government, and we need a governor who knows how to do that. For 4 years, I did business process reengineering and business transformation services for some of the largest companies across the country. I know how to do it. And I've actually got a plan with specific resources to start building the right culture of excellence within state government, train them in processes of continuous process improvement that starts at the executive level with 100,000 people that work for the executive branch of government, but then filters down to our counties and to our cities to equip them the techniques that actually allow them to reduce cycle times, improve flow, improve services, and significantly reduce cost. I think we can reduce costs as much as 32% across state government, and in doing that, we can absolutely reduce our taxes across the board.
Yeah, I want us to have the lowest tax burden of any state in the Southeast. Income, property, sales, regulatory, and impact. As it relates to income taxes, I'm glad that the legislature had the conversation. I do think we can cut the income tax in half fairly quickly and eliminate it over time. I wouldn't do it, though, by shifting the burden from individuals to business, and I wouldn't do away with the economic development incentives. I would do it like North Carolina. Take the taxpayer relief fund. When you have surplus funds, bite down on the income tax. I think having a AAA bond rating is critically important, and that would be part of that. As it relates to property taxes, I don't care if I'm in Cobb County or I'm down in Bainbridge or up in Blue Ridge. Everyone's talking about it. Yes, capping assessments is important, but more importantly, we got to cap the cost of property taxes on every individual, particularly those on fixed income, those first-time home buyers, and lower income. They have to have some certainty in this space.
Thank you. The second question, we'll start with you, Attorney General, as to answer. So Georgia's prison system is undergoing a crisis. What can we expect for it to be done to address the issues facing the Department of Corrections during your term? Is there more that the next governor can do to curb crime in our states?
Well, I'll commend the governor and the legislature for putting resources behind what we need, which is making sure that the assets is secure, that we are increasing pay. Those are huge issues. I appreciate the ability to prosecute gangs. But I'll tell you, there's two issues facing our prisons right now: cell phones and drones. And the one thing that our prosecutors say, if you want to stop crime in America, jam cell phones. We're working with the Trump administration now and the FCC to be able to jam those cell phones, because violent crimes being directed at scams as well. Drones are dropping cell phones and drugs and weapons into our prison system. We got to be able to stop that. But again, the bureaucrats are trying to tell us that we can't do whatever it takes to mitigate it. I say shoot the drones down. Shotgun, 2 shells, problem solved.
This is a massive problem. The first time I heard of this problem, I was talking to some wardens down in Dodge County. And they said,
You know what? These guys in this prison, it's not safe. And they said they did not get a death sentence and they don't deserve one. I later met a couple that had a child who lived. They were trying to extort $10,000 a month from this family. They couldn't do it. Yes, we have to do it. We have to out technology the crime and the gangs that actually have taken control of our prisons right now. So yes, it means eliminate drones that are dropping contraband within the facility. It also means jamming cell phones. But they're also great technology. Right now, a friend of mine has a company called Undaunted that uses robotic dogs to actually, to contain and protect properties around Atlanta. There's all sorts of great video AI technology that we can use to actually observe what's going on within the prison systems and break up cells and clusters of the various activity. The fact of the matter is, we've got technology on our side, and we should be using it to stamp out crime, to make our prisons safe, because that's the responsibility of government.
So we constantly hear the issue about affordability. So in multiple surveys, voters have expressed the cost of living as among their top priorities. How would you address rising costs? And we'll start with you first, Mr. Dean.
For sure. Affordability is the first, is A, and an ASAD plan. And the thing about it is, we need to identify constraints in our economy that are actually causing things to be more expensive. It's supply and demand. And a lot of government's actions actually make things like housing more expensive. We got to cut red tape, but we can't just start at the governor's level. We have to bring people together using the convening power of government and persuasive power of executive leadership to convince localities to actually get housing right. For food and grocery affordability, there are opportunities to actually expand our food production by bringing targeted food processing into rural communities in a way that creates jobs in rural communities, allows farmers to monetize about 40% of what is currently wasted that they harvest, increasing our food supply and reducing the cost of food and groceries for Georgians. We can do things with positive economic stimulus that creates jobs and reduces costs, and that's the way I would focus on it. We have to bring people together to solve these problems in creative ways, not just the typical political ways.
The best way to deal with the affordability issue is a good paying job. So focusing on education, focusing on workforce, making sure that folks can pay the bills that when we know that costs are going up on gas, groceries. But that's number one, a good paying job. Second, on housing. We have to unleash the power of the private sector. We have a supply and demand problem. Yes, costs are high, but part of it is because local governments are throwing up regulations, and it's taken forever to get permitting, and it's driving up costs. And who pays that? We do. So we've got to be able to work with the private sector and the state has an interest in working with our local governments to make sure that we drive down those barriers. Healthcare is a big issue. The federal government's got to get out of our way and let us build a program that makes sense for Georgia. What makes sense for North Carolina or New York or California, that may make sense for them, but it doesn't necessarily make sense for us. bring in the free enterprise system, make sure that there's competition, make sure those that want to get healthcare can get it, but do it the Georgia way.
Great. And you had mentioned education. So the next question, we'll start with you, General Carr. Georgia is the #1 state for business, but our K through 12 education system is ranked near the bottom than the top. Recently, Mississippi has seen a dramatic improvement in their education rankings. Do you believe leadership from the governor's office can set a new direction for education in Georgia? And if so, what are your plans? And what is your education platform to help the next generation of Georgians succeed?
Absolutely. It's embarrassing when we say Mississippi's better than us at anything. But God bless them, what they've done on going back to phonics and making sure there's literacy coaches. Well, look, I commend the House for what you focused on literacy, and the Speaker and Ms. Dale focusing on birth to age 5, making sure that we get that right. It is a tragedy that only 1 in 3 third graders read at grade level. That's absolutely wrong. Focusing on the way Mississippi did it, we should have 100% of third graders reading at grade level, because there's a lot of problems afterwards if you don't have that. You know, we did a great disservice also in this nation when we told kids in the 70s, 80s, and the 90s, you're not as smart if you use your hands than if you go to college. We got to go back and focus on technical and skilled trades in the 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, and make sure that we're aligning the jobs of the future with what we are doing in our K-12 and university and technical college system. Going back to what we did on the high demand career initiative, making sure the private sector tells us what we need to do. And choice in education. You don't have real choice in education if you don't have access to the dollars. I commend the legislature for passing a program that deals with 25%. I think all parents and all students should have access to choice in public, private, homeschool, charter, whatever it may be.
Mr. Dean?
Again, I believe that it actually comes down to executive leadership in the governor's office to bring people together in a process of convergence, setting a vision of what education looks like when it works, from cradle all the way to career and beyond. And that's what it takes. We can't just force things down on systems and school boards. We have to bring them together and help them understand what can really change. I chair the Metro Atlanta YMCA. We're the largest provider of early childhood education in the state of Georgia. I understand the critical importance of early childhood from 0 to 4, and we can do that with little brains are forming, because literacy matters. We cannot abandon our children, teaching them how to guess instead of how to read. And we all know what happens in 3rd grade. If you can't read, we plan a prison bed for you. It's not fair to them, and certainly not fair to us. And then on the other side of it, certainly in high school, we need to allow kids through apprenticeship and training programs to actually earn money and to get jobs that might expose them to other things. I hope my cousin started a plumbing business. I think he did better than I did. And I think we can unlock those opportunities for a lot of other Georgians.
Great. Last question. Democrats have now won 6 statewide elections since 2020, including 2 landslide wins in the Public Service Commission elections last year. Why are you the best candidate to win in November? And we'll go ahead and start with you, General Carr.
Look, we need good conservative leadership based on what has built this state and made our state great. But I'll tell you, it comes down to being able to appeal to the ever-growing independent voter. And that voter cares about jobs, safety, education, affordability, doesn't care about social issues the way that the right and the left traditionally has, and candidate quality matters. Look in my profile, look at what I have done. I've done it when I was with a great Cobb County elected official, Johnny Isaacson, when I was his chief of staff. I did it when I was the Commissioner of Economic Development, and I have now made crime illegal again as the Attorney General, going into communities that don't believe in public safety the way that I know the folks in this room have done. I am the candidate that can win the primary and the general in November.
So I got great credentials as a Republican. I was one of the few that proud the Harvard College Republicans, believe it or not, right? So from the South, but up there, and that was unusual. But the fact of the matter is, what I learned at Harvard was how to build big tents, how to get people together, how to win them over to your way of thinking so you could actually collaborate and get things done. I spent my time in Georgia building fabulous relationships on some of the most important nonprofit boards throughout the city, serving on some major civic boards and business boards like the Metro Atlanta Chamber of Commerce. I'm chair-elect of the Shepherd Center. I understand how to work across the aisles I mean, heck, I even served 2 terms as chairman of the Carter Center Board of Counselors. And so many of those folks came up to me when I announced that I was running as a Republican. And they said, you know what? I've never voted for a Republican, but I might vote for you. I was like, well, that's great. And nobody has to know. Let me tell you, there are a lot of folks out there. There are a lot of Republicans that just don't know they're Republicans yet. And we got to give them a choice we're voted for.
Great. Thanks for those responses. So I'm going to give you guys now 1 minute for a closing statement, and we'll start with you, Mr. Dean.
Thank you. Well, again, I'm running for governor to serve you. Until this election, every election I've ever been involved in, I've been sitting in your chair. And it always frustrates me that candidates always try to make it about themselves. Let me tell you about this. This is not about me at all. It's not about Chris. It's not about any of us. It's about you. It's about your hopes, your dreams for your family, for your community, for the state. I'm running to serve you as one of the 11 million people in the state of Georgia. And I am willing to bring my relationships, my capabilities, and all sorts of creativity to serve you better. I'm here to serve you, and I'm here to serve this little Winnie Stetson, who came up to me in West Georgia, and after the session, he came up to me and said, with wide eyes, he said, Mr. Dean, I got an idea for a campaign slogan. And I was like, really, what you got? His name was Stetson, like the hat. He goes, don't be mean, vote for Clark D. And I laughed. I was like, isn't that right? Isn't that what we want? We want leadership that inspires this next generation to actually look at respect their leaders again, to understand that these folks actually are serving. They're doing things. They're solving problems and inspiring young people to want to get involved in government, to want to learn. We can do this together, but we have to give people better choices and outsiders who know how to solve problems.
And I want to say the Cobb Republican Women's Club again. Thank y'all for having us. Look, this primary has to be about November. Who can win in November? And it's like I just said before, but let me tell you who's not going to win in November. It is not the candidate that raises their hand and says, I got the most money or I have one endorsement. And that's true on either side. It is going to be the candidate that appeals to that independent voter I talked about. Remember, in 2022, 6% of the electorate voted for Raphael Warnock, came down one line, and voted for Brian Kemp. Makes no sense until you figure out it is that independent voter that is ever growing. I have the record to do that. I as I said, worked with Johnny Isaacson. I've been in Washington. I've brought jobs to this state. I've kept people safe. And if you don't remember anything else from what I say, remember this. I'm the only attorney general in the country to have sued Barack Obama, Joe Biden, and Stacey Abrams in court and won. Okay? So I want you to remember that. But look, if you don't want Keisha Lance Bottoms to be the next governor of Georgia, we need somebody who can win. I ask for your vote. Remember, early voting starts April 27th. Election day is May 19th. And I want to earn your vote for governor. Thank you.
Well, thank you both for being here and taking the time. Let's give them a big round of applause. Thank you.